traditional option A says that you're getting financial planning for free, and then the advice-only channel is saying that it's going to cost thousands of dollars, that can be a really hard decision to make.
Well, welcome, Julia, to the Steadyhand Coffee Break series, a shorter, snappier version of our popular and longer form Steadyhand cafes. I'm David Toyne, a Toronto-based partner with Steadyhand Investment Management. And if you hadn't heard of Steadyhand before, I encourage you to check out our website. We are our fantastic alternative to the Bay Street banks and brokerages. And Julia, thank you for joining us today to discuss financial retirement planning, and particularly the emerging practice of advice-only planning. Now, I know viewers will be curious to learn more about the difference between the financial planning that is offered at banks and brokers, often at no charge, and the work that you and other advice-only planners are doing for Canadians. But before we get into the specifics, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to become an advice-only financial planner?
Sure. And thanks so much for having me back again, David. It's always great to chat with you. I started my career in financial services in 1997 when I was maybe 10 years old. No, I'm just kidding. But I started actually at an investment counseling firm, and I started in administration. I had this fabulous manager who decided that I was pretty bright, and he invested in me and got me into some courses and helped me get promoted. And I started working at the trading desk. And then I moved on from that company after he left to go work at another trading desk. And then I got licensed as an investment manager and started doing that instead of trading. And then I got my insurance license. And I ended up leading an insurance division at a major credit union in BC. And then I left that and became an estate planning advisor at another firm. And then I left that and joined an accounting firm where I actually started my advice-only financial planning practice, working specifically with people who have corporations and cross-border concerns.
So that career trajectory until you went to the accounting firm is kind of traditional for a lot of people who enter the mainline financial services industry. Is it your experience that that's the typical career trajectory for a lot of AOPs, or do they come to this a different route?
I think what's interesting about advice-only planners is they come from a lot of different places because it's, over the last 10 years been sort of a new area of personal finance. And so people are coming to it from investment firms, but they're also coming to it from banks. And interestingly, there's a small but growing contingent that are coming from engineering.
Interesting. Well, certainly from my experience working with a lot of advice-only planners, it's almost their reaction to the heavy sales culture in the banks and the insurance companies and the full service advisory firms really didn't gel well with their value set, and they're looking for an opportunity to focus truly on what's in the client's best interests rather than necessarily what might be in their employer's best interest. So that's been the sort of the dialogue that I've had with a lot of your peers in the industry.
I would agree with that. I would just say that advice-only planning tends to be very much a calling, as weird as that sounds, but it's people who by and large are doing it because it's an important part of their value system.
I think Cody Garrett, one of the leading advice-only planners south of the border in the US, actually was in the ministry. So arguably, certainly for him, it is a calling. Now, you have a lot of letters after your name. What do they all mean?
Well, the CFP is the Certified Financial Planner designation, and what I call the kind of table stakes for anybody that you are meeting with who is a financial planner. CLU is Chartered Life Underwriter, which is a poorly named designation, and it is an advanced estate planning designation, not a life insurance designation. FEA is Family Enterprise Advisor, so I've got specialized training and experience in working with the specific needs of family businesses and family enterprises. And TEP is Trust and Estate Practitioner, and that's part of the global organization called STEP, which provides complex tax and estate planning support.
Well, we're going to get into what is advice-only planning next. But just before we do that, what advice do you have for Canadians who are looking for that sort of independent, objective retirement financial planning advice in terms of like certification? Because I know there's a lot of confusion around titles and things like that.
There's so many, and it's an ongoing problem in the industry. And what I would say is kind of bare minimum, you're looking for somebody who has qualifications that are issued by FP Canada, which would be the QAFP, which is the Qualified Associate Financial Planner, and the CFP, which is the Certified Financial Planner. So those are kind of the bare minimums. If they don't have those, they're not trained in financial planning.
Okay. So let's dive in. And let's talk first, who would benefit from AOP's advice? Like, can you describe a typical client engagement? And not, I know you have a particular niche, so maybe think more generically around the advice-only planner community writ large. What would a typical client look like? Who would fit well with an AOP? And maybe explain how different planners might focus on different demographics or different niches.
The fact that there are different demographics and different niches in the advice-only planning realm tells you how wide the market is for people who are looking for advice-only financial planning. So why would somebody be looking for advice-only financial planning? What I think is important here is remembering that there is a difference between investment management and financial planning. And financial planning is really genuinely about saying, I am here and I would like to go there. And that's what your financial planner is going to help you figure out. So if you're a person who's saying, this is my largest concern as I'm trying to figure out how to achieve certain goals, and I know that there's going to be financial decisions involved in that, that's when you need an advice-only financial planner, because that's what your focus is.
So more comprehensive, possibly complex, multi-dimensional, even multi-scenario kind of planning is what you guys really get your teeth into.
And that's really the thing. And again, I know because the industry has conflated the two, people often think, oh, a financial planner is someone who's going to help me decide how to invest my RSP or my TFSA or my other investment accounts. And that is just a component. True financial planning is comprehensive and it is big picture, because for us as individuals, human beings out there, we're making difficult decisions. We're making a decision to put this much money in our RSP, sure. And there's going to be investment decisions around that. But in order to make that decision, we have to know kind of, what are we spending in our lives right now? What are we trying to achieve with our RSP? What are the tax implications? What are the legal implications of how we structure the beneficiary designations or not around that account? All of those things play into what seems like a small decision. And that's why it's confusing. That's why financial planning on a truly comprehensive level is important, because you need somebody who understands all of these implications that go into that one seemingly small decision.
I could simplify this by saying you offer a lot, but what don't you offer as a financial planner as it relates to a Canadian's financial world?
I like to say I know a little bit about a lot of things, right? And then we start to go into those individual fields, investment management, insurance, and wills and estates and that sort of thing. I don't do any of those things. I often say to my clients, I implement nothing. I I am here to help you make great decisions, but the actual putting them in place, we need our deep experts for that. And if you come from a medical field, I'll say I'm sort of like your GP. I'll say we need to do these things, but we're going to bring in, the cardiac specialist and the dermatologist and that sort of thing. Or if you've worked in the construction world, I'm your general contractor, and we're going to bring in the plumbers and the roofers and the framers.
And arguably the best in class subcontractors, if I could call it that, to bring in.
I like to think so. I put a lot of effort into getting to know those people.
So how does the advice-only model benefit Canadians as compared to a more traditional financial planning model that you would find at the bank or, your insurance dealer?
I think the big thing is that what we're looking for is somebody who has the expertise in this kind of really complex thinking. and has the ability to understand how this decision over here in your legal is going to impact this decision over here in your financial management, your insurance, your investment, your corporation, right? And it is very hard to stay on top of all of those things and also be an expert in some deep area of expertise like yours. If I am going to keep up with being really great at being an investment manager, I am not going to actually, as a normal human being, be able to keep up with all these other things. So I think the benefit to Canadians is that you're getting higher quality across the board by having that comprehensive look, because people can only be so good at so many things.
Most Canadians would experience going to the bank or having a financial advisor, and they might at some point, present as needing a financial plan. They may be 5 years away from retirement or something like that. And or the bank might offer to do a financial plan as part of the investment advisory service. I often thought that the banks were doing that gratuitous offer of a financial plan for free as a way to demonstrate value. But I've been told that there's another reason. And I haven't shared this with you, so I'm interested to know your answer to this. And if it's not the same answer I have, it'll be interesting. We'll have two answers. But why do you think banks offer free financial plans?
Well, because it's functionally a loss leader. It is a way of increasing the interaction with the client and increasing the amount of products that you can sell to the client. And I do want to say that doesn't inherently make the financial services firm evil. These are all for-profit companies, and I think people forget that. Our banks are for-profit, right? And they are looking for ways to increase their profit. And they know that if they are the person that you're talking to, that you trust when you're making financial decisions, you will buy your products through them. That doesn't mean it's necessarily bad, but we do have to understand the underlying motivation behind it. And again, when we think about what people are capable of being good at, how many things we're capable of being good at, and then the motivation that we have for what we get paid to do, right? As a normal human person or any business, you're going to put the time and the energy into the areas where you're going to make money. Right. And so I think the likelihood that you're going to get the highest quality financial planning when someone's not being paid to do what is really intense work is probably not that great.
Yes, and we've borne witness to that. We've seen the financial plans that come from one part of the industry and the financial plans that come from other parts of the industry, and there's a big difference. Well, I was told in very simple terms that it's so that the banks can find out where all your money is.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so
And then
and
when they find that out, then they can sell you a new product or ask you to transfer your money. Right?
so your relationship with those subcontractors, tell us a little bit about how that works. Are you paid referral fees to refer? And just talk a little bit about how referral fees work in the world at large.
So referral fees are not uncommon. A lot of times people will, there's definitely arrangements out there where investment and insurance firms or even accounting firms will pay an advisor from another field if they bring in a client. And it might be, say, a percentage of what they might sell the client over a period of time, or it might be where I've seen sometimes with investment firms that, if they're charging a client an annual percentage, the referrer gets a piece of that. I don't charge in that way because I think it would put me in a different position when I'm advising my clients, because I'm as human as everybody else, and we all do what we're paid to do. And so if I'm going to make more money because you're working with subcontractor X or Y, I'm going to naturally lean towards that, even if I don't want to. So I don't accept referral fees, but I understand why they happen.
And certainly the regulators, well, they looked at this a couple, 3 years ago and then kicked the can down the road. I understand it's really coming back now as a top regulatory issue, because it's one thing to have a referral fee arrangement that the client's not even aware of. It's another thing to have a referral fee arrangement that the client is aware of. And so transparency is certainly an important part. So by virtue of the fact you don't take referral fees, and none of the advice-only planners that Steadyhand engages with do take referral fees. In fact, we require that they certify that they don't. It presents a challenge, and that is you're not going to make as much money from your clients as you could if you took referral fees. So what are some of the other challenges that you as an advice-only planner face?
Money in general is going to be the thing that most advice only planners are facing, on first blush when it comes to the business model. We can absolutely make more money selling products. Service businesses are inherently expensive to run, and they're difficult to manage because they're people focused, right? It's a lot easier to run a business that's based around a product than it is around people. Maintaining quality when you're running a team of financial planners, as I have done in the past, is really, really difficult, because it's one thing to look at a plan and say, well, I know that, assuming these facts are correct, then this is probably a good plan, but I haven't met these people. So is it really a good plan? Those kinds of things are really difficult. As a business model, it's a tougher one to be in than being a financial advisor through the other channels, and that's part of the reason why I think it is calling at this point.
Interesting. Well, certainly from my experience, the independent, objective nature of the advice that you're providing Canadians is literally priceless, and the fees that you charge based upon the insights and the positive changes that you can bring to Canadian families, that the investment that a family makes in engaging a planner is going to be paid multiple times back in terms of financial incentives and benefits, but also just peace of mind from knowing that advice is independent and objective.
And that's hard for a lot of clients to quantify as well, right? So if you're going out there into the industry and you're saying, hey, I really think I need this kind of advice, and, traditional option A says that you're getting financial planning for free, and then the advice only channel is saying that it's going to cost thousands of dollars, that can be a really hard decision to make. And it's kind of taking a flyer, right? You're paying somebody some money and you hope that what you get out of it is really good advice. You won't know if it's good advice until after you've received it, at which point you've already paid the fee. This can be a really hard decision for people to make. How do I know if what the outcome is going to be good? Paying for advice directly in any field, consulting in general, it is an act of faith on the part of the person who's doing the hiring, and it's a tough decision. And I think because of that, because of those kind of internal conflicts for the person and the way the industry is set up, I think a lot of advice only planners are under billing when it comes to fees.
I disagree with you. I don't think it's a tough decision. I think it's a no-brainer. And so I would encourage more and more Canadians to look into the advice only planner channel. And we have a directory on our website that we'll talk about a little bit more in a second. But the one thing I want to really emphasize is the idea that Canadians should not think about financial planning as a noun. They should think about it as a verb, which means that they shouldn't be paying for a financial plan. They should be paying for a financial planning experience. And that takes time. Like that, you're going to get a plan that's going to tell you all these wonderful things that you can and should be doing to improve your financial future. But it's worth nothing if you don't implement it. And we all need accountability partners. We all need help in a lot of this implementation. So I encourage everybody to have a conversation with a planner, not just about the plan, but about how they can help you implement that plan, which would take at a minimum a year.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that you can get a plan and it's going to have really ideally great guidance that you can work with. But what you're also engaging with is a partner in your financial decision making. I've always said financial planning is about making great decisions for your life and the one that you want to live. And when we know inherently that life changes, right? The world's changing around us. We have interest rates going in a place that they haven't been in 10 years. The market's changing constantly. Our jobs are changing. The cost of living is changing. You as a person are making different decisions about the life you want to live. Your financial planning professional should be somebody who is part of that journey. And I think that's why it's really important to have this model available for people, because sometimes the person who's really great at managing your investments is actually not really great at being this kind of a partner. It's a combination of a financial professional and almost like a coach, somebody who knows you and can work with you and understands why a certain decision might be a really big struggle for you and can help you work through it and can break it down into pieces and be there for you through that journey.
I suspect that when more of your peers in the advice-only planning community and other financial planners that are contemplating a move into the advice-only planner practice hear that you're on this coffee break series, they're going to want to watch this. And so, because Julia has a very, very high profile role as an innovator in the advice only planning world, and is now the new president of FPAC, which is the Financial Planning Association of Canada. So maybe speaking a little bit to the industry, Julia, can you give some sense as to what FPAC is all about and what you're trying to accomplish going forward?
Well, thank you for that opportunity. I appreciate that. The Financial Planning Association of Canada is an association for financial planners. And the goal of that association is really to professionalize financial planning, to, separate it out from the different types of expertise that some financial planners have, which of course often include investment and insurance, and really hone in on financial planning and say, this is a true profession and we are true professionals. And in order to do that really, really well, we need to come together as financial planners and we need to say, this is what professional financial planning looks like. So FPAC was created in 2019. I was one of the founding members. And at the time, we created a fiduciary oath, something that is not necessarily required for most of the designations that financial planners have. And that is an important piece of the equation that we have decided to put our clients first and foremost, and we're committing to it through an oath. And then we work together as a community to speak with regulators about things like title regulation, about things like what is a financial plan, because it looks different in lots of places. And there is actually standards of what is a financial plan, and we want to uphold those. And we're also a community that supports financial planners as they're dealing with interesting problems and needing to learn and expand beyond the scope of what sort of education and information is available inside the employment firms that they work for. So we're growing.
Awesome. And speak briefly to anybody out there that might be thinking about becoming an advice-only financial planner as a career. What would you say to them?
I would say first join the Financial Planning Association and speak to the other advice-only financial planners that are there. We have a special interest group where people are talking together. We have a once monthly event. Learn about what it means to run a business like this. There's a lot more to running a business than just being an expert in your field. And so if you are going to go out on your own, you have to understand a lot of different components about just operating a business. There's lots of opportunities to work for other advice-only financial planning firms. Over the last 10 years, the niche area has grown dramatically. And there's a lot of people now looking for junior support and people getting to know the field. So I would start there. Don't just hang out your shingle and hope people show up. Learn first, gather lots of information. The group is so open and so welcoming. You'll get a lot of information.
Yeah, I know it's a very sharing community, and as you said earlier, it's a calling, and people really want this calling to grow. So I think those are well spoken words. Now, if anybody's hung on for this long in our coffee break, I hope Julie is going to be able to give us some really quick tips. So I I've asked her to give some consideration to what I know general advice, it always depends, but what is the most frequent sort of lowest hanging sort of thing that you suggest that Canadians should be aware of as they think about financial planning, their future and retirement and such like?
Well, I'll start with the joke I always make to people. The two smartest things that you can do with your financial plan is don't have children and don't get divorced. Outside of that, it's really important to remember that the point of a plan is for you to build a really good life. That's why we're doing this. We're not doing this because we're trying to prove some, I don't know, moral thing where, I'm really good at managing my money and that makes me a better person. So that's not what your financial plan is for. Your financial planning is for you to get to the place that you want to be able to live the life that you want to live. So I think the most important thing you can do is think about that. Who am I today? What do I want from today? Because it's not just about 10, 20, 30 years from now. It's also today. And then what do I want in the future? What would I do with my life if I thought anything was possible? If you can start there with answering those questions, your financial planner can help you do really amazing transformational things.
That sounds like a lot of work. I just want to save taxes.
Well, you can do that too.
Well, thank you, Julia. It's been fun to share this time with you on this very important topic, because at Steadyhand, we do believe strongly in the importance of independent, objective, comprehensive financial planning advice at the right stage in your life. You don't need it throughout your entire accumulating years, but certainly at some point, you're going to want to have that sort of comprehensive, integrated look at your financial future. And as such, we fully support the advice-only planning community in Canada. In fact, a couple of years ago, we canvassed the community and created a directory of advice-only planners that we've located on our website. We'll provide a link to that directory in the video notes below, and we'll be updating that directory in the first quarter of 2024. So thank you for watching, and if you like what you've heard, as usual, be sure to subscribe to the Steadyhand channel, give us a thumbs up.
Thank you so much, David and Steadyhand, for all you have done to support the advice-only financial planning profession. It's small, and there's been a lot of work in building this field in Canada, and what you and your team have done to support advice-only financial planners in growing this profession has been profoundly impactful. And I think it's really important that we recognize that. I really, really appreciate what you've done.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for watching. Bye for now.